Hi, how are you? I'm Julian on the radio. This is 104.7 KISS FM. We had a little bit of a interesting conversation off camera. This, to the left of me, which is to the right as you view us, is Flip Orley. Flip Orley, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. You're going to be at Stand Up Live all weekend long. 2 shows today, Friday.
Right.
2 shows Saturday. Show Sunday. The details, get your tickets at standuplive.com. Now, you would you call yourself a straight hypnotist, comedian / hypnotist? Or?
You know what? I don't like labels, man.
Okay, I don't either. That's why I asked you.
No, I do comedy, and I guess it's like anything else. People either think you're funny or not. I think I'm pretty funny. And then at some point in the show, I ask for volunteers, and then some people get hypnotized, some don't. And then I try to work a show around the hypnotized people, and hopefully they're funny.
Okay, here's the thing. I went to I saw a hypnotist one time, and it was at the Wisconsin Dells.
The Wisconsin what?
The Wisconsin Dells. It is like a family place, like a family retreat you go for vacation.
Okay.
In Wisconsin, and I saw a hypnotist, and you from the research I did is you're taking the whole hypnotist thing to a whole new level. I've been doing it for years. You know what I mean? Like when you think hypnotist, normally it would be kind of like what? You know what I mean? Like kind of you're making it cool again. Does that make sense?
Okay, so for me, I think a lot of hypnotists that I've seen kind of fall into the stereotype,
right?
Where they're either going to do something that's mean or humiliating to the volunteer for the sake of entertaining the audience, but at the volunteer's expense, or they do the type of show where they're trying to do demonstrations with hypnosis,
right?
And some demonstrations are really interesting, but I don't think they're funny. And if I'm working comedy clubs, to me, everything's supposed to be comedic based. So I don't get people barking like a dog, squealing like a pig. I'm not going to do that kind of stuff. Some hypnotists will tell a volunteer who's deeply hypnotized that they're really stiff and rigid, like head to toe, and they'll stick their feet on a chair and their head on a chair, and there's nothing in between. So they're just this really like this plank. And then sometimes if they want to get ambitious, they'll either sit or stand on the person's like midsection to show how rigid they are. It's a great demonstration. I don't think it's funny. And
right.
Then the other thing is
Exactly.
like you really don't know who you're dealing with. Let's say you do that with a woman who's in her first trimester of her pregnancy and she doesn't know. So there's liability issues and it's not my cup of tea. So I think, this is my premise. I think that people are funny. I think people are interesting. I think people are creative. And in many cases, more so than they realize. So hypnosis, the way I use it is to help you try to uncover the more creative aspects of who you are.
How do you get into something like that? Did you go to school? Did you go to hypnosis school?
Not specifically.
How do you do something like that?
Well, initially I got some books on hypnosis. Then I met a hypnotist, and I studied for 3 years with a guy privately. Initially, when I went to college, it was for psychology, and then I eventually switched over to communication. And then between collecting books and actually going to places that taught hypnosis, I just started acquiring the knowledge through the years.
I'm gonna come see you Saturday.
Really?
Saturday night. Yes, I'm going to be right in the front row.
Okay.
I'm going to be the guy that wants to get hit. Now, I want to get hypnotized. Have you ever had an issue? Can you hypnotize anybody?
I cannot.
Because I heard, tell me this is true, that it depends on your mind. If, for example, I'm very, I can't lose control. I just have that personality. Now, with someone like me, you think you might have issues? Or?
You might, but the thing of it is that, and that's one of the really big misconceptions, is that a person thinks that if they submit to hypnosis, what they're doing is they're giving up control. And that actually is not true even a little bit. So when you're hypnotized, okay, so people, the natural assumption, you're hypnotized, your eyes are closed, right? Your body's kind of slumped over, you're in a trance. And hypnotists say you're going deeper and deeper to sleep. So you're asleep, you're unconscious, you're in a trance, and they control you. But the fact of the matter is whether your eyes are open or closed, your mind is hyper-conscious, you're completely aware of what you're doing. You have the ultimate choice as to whether or not you accept or reject any suggestion. So if I were to say to you under hypnosis, let's say you're deeply hypnotized, and I go rob a convenience store. Right?
Yeah.
Do you ever hear about hypnotized zombie-looking people robbing convenience stores?
No.
The reason is you're not going to do it because you're awake. You actually know what you're doing. So you can pick and choose the things that you're willing to accept.
That's amazing.
Which ultimately means that you have the final say and you're in control.
Wow. Do you have a story of something maybe on stage that you thought that, let's put it this way, that didn't go as planned?
God, how much time do you have?
Something that just sticks out in your head. Biggest gaffy.
So there's something called regression, and regression is where someone doesn't just remember the past; they can actually move backwards through time and sort of relive the past. 2 kinds of regression: past life, which people normally hear about, right? It's like I am Napoleon, which whatever. Anyway, or where you just go back in time in your life, where you're like, oh, and now you're 5 years old, 4 years old, 3 years old, or whatever. And the thing of it is that as you start moving back in time, you start feeling like, acting like, thinking like a 4 or 5 year old or whatever.
You can make somebody feel like this.
I can help them to experience that. Yeah.
I would love to feel like, because I forgot what my childhood was like.
So, and it's really an interesting bit. But again, you're sort of opening up a bit of a Pandora's box because I don't know you as an adult, and I certainly don't know what your childhood was like. So I'm always wanting the experiences to be positive. So I thought it'd be really funny one time. It was right around Christmas. I was doing a show. So I took one guy and I did the opposite of regression, which I call it progression. So I made the guy like 80 years old, and he was a mall Santa Claus, but he was old and curmudgeon-y and he hated kids. And then everybody else on stage was like 5 and they wanted to sit on Santa's lap. Right?
That's amazing. Yeah.
So there's like this 30-year-old guy, and he's kind of a big guy, and he comes running up to Santa. He's like, "Oh, Santa, I love you." And Santa's like, "What do you want for Christmas?" And the guy sits on Santa's lap, and Santa started cussing him out because he's 80, right?
Yeah.
And the 6-year-old who's like 30 actually like hurt his leg because he kind of plunked down kind of hard. So Santa starts cussing the guy out. So the guy starts crying, like full on crying. Tears, snot bubbles.
Right.
And before I saw it coming or could stop it, he goes, "I hate you, Santa Claus." And he reared back and he kicked Santa in the shin as hard as he could.
Now, this is how they would have acted, right?
Well, that's the funny thing. So the show, I fixed the deal. It's like, "Oh, your leg doesn't hurt anymore." And whatever you do to try to make it better. So the show ends. And then the guy who kicked Santa Claus,
sure,
his wife came up to me. And she was still laughing, and I go, "I know it's funny, but I feel kind of bad." She goes, "No, you don't understand. I was at my husband's family reunion like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they were telling stories. And as it turns out, my husband, when he was a kid, whenever he got mad, he used to reach out and kick people. So that's just what he did."
That's why.
Yeah.
That's amazing, dude.
So
you thought you're bringing people back.
Yeah, I didn't see it happening, but it was really funny. But that's one of those note to self. I don't want that to happen again.
Well, I can assure you that I don't remember anything like terrible like that happened in my childhood. So when you hypnotize me, we won't have that issue. I won't be kicking anybody.
Well, I also figured out a way to actually elicit those kind of experiences and feelings, but in a way where you keep anything that may be undesirable, you sort of keep that away. So over time you figure that out. I was working in Washington D.C. and it's a small.
DC.
Are you?
I am from Alexandria, Virginia.
Oh, well, I know
okay,
that.
I'm sorry. I don't want to sound composer. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia.
No, close
5
enough.
minutes outside of DC.
The D.C. area.
Right.
The Beltway.
But that's like saying I'm from Chicago, but I live in Hinsdale.
Or Naperville or something
There
like
you go. There you go. There you go.
So do you know the D.C. Improv?
Of course.
Okay, so I'm working the DC Improv stage, and it's kind of a smaller stage, and one night was like an amazing night, right? So everybody on stage got hypnotized, and they're fun, and I don't do the bark like a dog, squeal like a pig thing, so I decided I was going to do a hypnotic roller coaster, where you actually have all the sensations and feelings of being on a roller coaster, but it's like a virtual reality kind of roller coaster. So, and these people were great, and they were really jacked up, and I'm screaming at them like, "Your cart banks to the right, banks to the left, banks to the right," and the second time it banked, the guy on the right side of the stage launched himself off the stage. And literally just took a header and went like underneath the table in the second or third row.
Did he get hurt?
No, but he was angry. And
I wonder why.
when I do that roller coaster, my back is normally to the volunteers,
right?
Because I'm like the right operator. So like, "Your card's banking to the right, banking to the left," and so I don't see him. So I turned back around to address the volunteers, but now there's like an empty chair where a guy used to be. Which, if you're a hypnotist, that's like a really bad moment. You're like, "Oh my God, where'd the guy go off to?" And so I asked the audience, I go, "Did the guy leave? Did you see where the guy went off to?" And I just heard a voice from like under a table in the audience. "I was thrown off the ride." And I looked, and he was like, his legs were crossed, his arms were folded, and he looked angry. And I just walked over to see if he was okay. And I go, "What happened?" And he goes, "Seatbelt broke, man. I guess, I don't know." And that was his explanation.
It's crazy, dude.
The funniest part was he wasn't angry about falling off. He was angry that he missed like the second half of the ride. So he goes, "Can we go again?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, for you."
Are you going to be doing this bit this weekend?
I don't know. I might. I almost did it last night, and I changed my mind at the last minute. But I came real close. I did that. I was in Oklahoma City on Wednesday. I did that Wednesday night.
What's the? Yeah, no, please go ahead.
So I was in Tempe a year or two ago, and I did the roller coaster. And so usually after the ride, I'll talk to the volunteers to find out what they thought the experience was for them. It's like, "So what do you think of the ride?" And it's like, "Oh, I love the loops. I love the twists. I love the turns." So I go up to this one woman. I go, "What do you think of the ride?" She goes, "I think I had an orgasm."
She said that?
Yeah. And actually, as it turns out, she did.
That's pretty funny, man.
Well,
I got to check this out.
It's fun. It's
How
fun.
long is yours? Because I've heard your name I'll be honest, I've heard your name for years, but I love watching comedy. I've never caught you, so I'll catch you this weekend.
I hope so.
How long is your set? Is it normally like an hour? Or?
It's a 1 hour. It's not 1 hour. It's a one-man show. So it's just me and the entire night. So it runs between like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Oh, wow. Long.
Yeah.
Because comedians normally about, I don't know, anywhere from
45
minutes to an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Bobby Lee I don't know if you know him.
I've never met him. I know who he is, but
he was in town last week, and man, I thought he was great, but the audience just kind of was hating on him.
Really?
Not quite sure, man. Not quite
sure.
And
you think because he's famous enough and well known enough that the people that go see Bobby Lee know who he is, and they're going there to see Bobby Lee, so they're going to buy into his set,
right? Just
because of his persona.
Yeah, just inside, it might have been too much. Just inside, I'm thinking as a comedian for yourself, comedian hypnotist. I think to myself when something like that happens on stage, where you kind of get that vibe, it's got to be the hardest thing. You got to keep on trucking.
You
Not
really
saying
do.
that happens for you, but I'm just saying in
No, it's
general.
happened. And I'll tell you what, the biggest watershed moment for me, because I used to get really nervous to the point of almost being sick to my stomach. And then we went to war in 1991, the first Gulf War.
Okay, yeah.
And I was getting ready for a show. And I mean, here's how egocentric I think comics can be. It's a show that I really wanted to do. It's a club that I really wanted to work. And all of a sudden we're lobbing Tomahawk missiles off battleships. And my first thought was, really, you couldn't wait till next week? Like this gig is really important.
Right.
Like Desert Shield couldn't have gone another week. But after I got over that, then I thought, you know what? I don't care how bad my night is. Like I'm not going to see a bullet. I'm not going to see a missile. My ego will be bruised, and then I'm going to go to bed and I'll wake up the next morning. The sun's going to rise and shine. So, you kind of put it in perspective. I want to do good shows. I want people to have fun. I want them to be glad they made that choice to come see my show. But if I'm not someone's cup of tea one night, it sucks, but you get over it.
I think you are.
I guess.
We're going to check you out.
I hope so.
His name is Flip Orley. He's a good man right here all weekend long. He's going to be at Stand Up Live, 2 shows Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and he may hypnotize you, right? Or maybe the entire audience.
Ooh, that'd be fun. Then I could go back to the hotel and watch HBO for a while.
Gotta check him out. Flip Orley. It's Kiss FM.